Hello students, welcome to CEC-UGC live lectures. Dear friends, in this session we will be talking about ecological restorations through watershed management, and to take this topic we have our subject expert with us, Dr. B.W. Pandey. Dr. Pandey is Associate Professor, Department of Geography, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome Sir to our studios and request him to begin the lecture. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, and today we are going to discuss about watershed management and how watershed management has become a tool for ecological restoration. Friends, ecological restoration through watershed management, this is a unique initiative taken by our scientists, planners, government, the people, and this is only possible through the very active community participation. So, one can say that watershed management is not important only for the ecological restoration, rather it is very, very important for economic prosperity, social development. So, all the three pillars, economic, social and ecological, all the three parameters are achieved through the watershed management, and today I will discuss these three achievements, the watershed management, and with the suitable example I would like to discuss with you how watershed management had proved very essential initiative to eradicate extreme rural poverty from India. And this is very interesting. Through watershed management, there has been a social integration. The big gap between the society itself, within the society itself, all those have been removed through the watershed management. As you know, Indian society is highly divided on the basis of caste, on the basis of religion. There are higher caste, there are lower caste, there are so many issues, social issues, which were earlier. But today, if you find, these issues have been removed through the community participation, where each and every section of the community participating in the watershed management. So you can find that during the lecture, I'll give several examples from the rural areas of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand, where there is social integration, de-stratification of the society. Similarly, there are a lot of welfare of the rural poor, farmers, and especially those rural poor who are landless, unskilled, unemployed. There is a lot of economic welfare through the watershed management. So, before coming to all these discussions, first of all, I would like to define what do you mean by a watershed. So, a watershed is a geo-hydrological unit. Geo means ground, surface, earth, geo, and hydrological, water. So, it's an area, earth surface, which is having a definite water potentiality. So, it is a geo-hydrological unit in which water drain out from various slopes to a common point, from where it terminates in the form of stream or in the form of rivulet. If you see the map, you will find that the diagram, which you can find that this diagram shows the watershed having three different slopes, and from various slopes water gets accumulated at a common point in the bottom of the valley, from where it moves out in the form of a stream or a rivulet. You can find this photograph can give you better understanding that there are various slopes. Through the slope, the ablation water, ablation, melting of ice, melting of glacier, known as ablation. So ablation water and the rainwater moves out from various slopes and get accumulated in the bottom of the valley, from where that is called common point, from where it drains out in the form of a stream or rivulet. So this is a unique picture of a watershed, micro watershed. So on the basis of size, watershed can be too large, big watershed, medium sized watershed, and micro watershed. Earlier, these lands were barren land. Water was draining out without use. As you know, necessity is the mother of invention. Friends, due to the pressure of population, due to more and more need of the land and water to support the growing population, we require more land, more water, not only for the basic survival of the society, but also we require it for the economic development, for the ecological restoration. As you know, there is a large-scale land use, land cover change. So earlier there were more than 60% forest land. Now changed to forest land to agricultural land, and then now agricultural land to industrial and urban land. There is a large-scale land use, land cover change. Due to land use, land cover change, there is a very extreme imbalance between the ecological systems and the economic system. We have to sustain our economy, but also we have to restore our ecology. Therefore, this approach, watershed management, in true sense, is the source of ecological restoration and economic prosperity, food security, availability of food, increasing the economic activities of the land, enhancing the carrying capacity of the land. Watershed management has proved it as an important component. Friends, you can find that comparatively, as you compare with India to the many sub-Saharan countries of the Africa continent, where they are not able to develop this approach of watershed management. Therefore, they are still suffering from hunger, food crisis, malnutrition, very negative impact of the drought, scanty rainfall. But in India, we have overcome all these issues. With the growing population, one thing you can analyze here, population is growing, no doubt. The size of population is increasing. And you find that along with the increase of population, there is an increase in the availability of per capita food, availability of the grains. How it has become possible? not only through the green revolution, but also the allied activities like watershed management had provided additional land for agriculture, additional livelihood security, a source of livelihood. Through that, we are able to generate, produce more food. We are able to provide more and more employment at the rural level, and particularly for those people who are unskilled, uneducated, and landless. So, all the three components I would like to discuss with you. So, on the basis of size of the watershed, which is based on the hydrological unit, in India, there are 6 water resource regions. 6 water resource regions where the large amount of water divided on the basis of geohydrology, on the basis of water divide. There are 34 major basins, river basins, and 112 catchment areas. About 500 sub-catchment areas and more than 3,000 watersheds. And you find more than 12,000 sub-watersheds and more than 40,000 are the micro watersheds. Friends, through these watersheds, so major watersheds, sub-watersheds, and the micro watersheds, we are able to increase the agricultural land. We are able to increase the forest land, the quality of the forest, the density of the forest, more grazing land as a livelihood options, more grazing land, more area for horticultural crops, and more social integration through the social welfare, social justice, social capital, social well-being, and the social fencing. All these have become possible through the watershed management. Now take one by one that watershed management important for ecological restoration as a practical management strategy. It restores ecological processes to maintain ecosystem composition, structure, and function. Friends, as you know, ecosystem includes both living and non-living, and both are important for ecosystem functioning. Both are important for ecosystem services. So, we require good soil, good quality of land for the healthy vegetation. We require plenty of flora for healthy fauna. So, floral and faunal regime directly and indirectly depend on the good quality of land. If you visit a desert area, because soil is not fertile, sandy soil, you will find less number of flora and fauna. Where soil is fertile, climate is suitable, you find very dense forest, large number of flora and fauna. So, it restores ecological processes to maintain ecosystem composition, structure, and function. Successful restoration requires a full understanding of the ecological deficiencies in the ecosystem. So, one can restore the ecosystem only if you know what are the ecological deficiencies. And we are able to know through the watershed management that what are the ecological deficiency in per unit of land. A defined course of scientific study through experimental management. So watershed management is not only an indigenous technology, it also implies large number of scientific innovations and development. This understanding of restoration in human-centered become restorations occur to satisfy people. Friends, ultimately, any planning is people concentrated, people centered, human centered, societal centered. Welfare of the society is the ultimate objective of any kind of planning. So we need the social development through the restorations occur to satisfy the people. Ultimate goal is to satisfy the people, and through the watershed management, you can find that the watershed management implies the rational utilization of land and water resources for optimum production with minimum hazard to natural environment. Friends, this is the ultimate goal of this sustainable development. And this is the way, this is the approach to achieve the sustainable development, that rational utilization of land and water resources for optimum production with minimum hazard to natural environment. And through the watershed management, we are able to achieve it. The concept of watershed management involves accurate and timely monitoring of natural resources using available latest technologies. So in watershed management, one side there is a application of traditional knowledge, where local people involved with their indigenous techniques. On the other hand, a number of scientific applications for ecological development, economic development, and social development. The ecological restoration, economic prosperity, and social integration. All the examples I will share with you. Here are a few photographs which can be analyzed. That in the bottom, see the two photographs. In the left side, photographs before watershed management, and the right side photographs shows the condition, ecological restoration after the watershed management. So there is more greeneries, more water. Through the water, there are number of subsidiary occupations, number of allied sources of livelihood. Maybe fisheries, maybe horticulture, maybe animal husbandry, so many other activities possible through the water. Friends, no civilization can survive without water. Therefore, the basic objective of the watershed management is ecological restoration, regenerating the water. And we have a number of successful stories. If you visit many states of India like Uttarakhand, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala, have big example of the successful stories of the watershed management. Waterman of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, from Tarun Bharat Sangh, Rajasthan. You find that Rajasthan, which was a dry state. Once now you can visit, you find that number of the tanks, ponds, locally called joad, having plenty of water, providing a new life to the people. Similarly, if you visit Uttarakhand in Dudha region, you will find Sachidanand Bharati ji. Sachidanand Bharati, through the watershed management, through the afforestation, he had generated a stream which is locally known as Gad Ganga. Gad Ganga, a new stream, a new river, and you will find that number of villages where the water of Gad Ganga providing livelihood options for household water, for agriculture water, animal husbandry water. That Gad Ganga has become a perennial source of water through the watershed management. Then in Gochar, Chamoli district, Chaudhary Jagat Singh, who had forested big land where people in Uttarakhand were migrating, were going out. They were out migration. Chaudhary Jagat Singh Jangali was in army personnel. He came to village and provided a pathway to the local people. Women who were traveling 10 to 20 kilometer distance in the forest to find the fodder and fuel, now they are getting fodder and fuel for their animals, for household at their own village. So he had reduced the traveling distance and time of the local people. Through the forestry, he had developed the forest agro technique through the watershed management, and now Chaudhary Jagat Singh, popularly known as Jangali. Throughout the country, in the world, he is known as Jangali because of the afforestation, because of the watershed management. And he had not only restored the ecological balance in the Gochar area, also he had generated a source of permanent income through the forest. Lot of vegetables, lot of fruits in the forest he had developed, and this model is now taken as a model of development of the mountains, forest in the world. Because simultaneously there is ecological restoration, there is economic development, also the social integration. People interacting with him, coming to see the model and going to apply. Through these stories, these pictures now become a reality, and provides encouragement for the fellow villagers to follow in their own respective villages, and gradually the villages in Rajasthan, villages in Uttarakhand, Karnataka, Maharashtra, all the states are empowering themselves through the watershed management. Utilizing the land and water resources according to their capabilities to support agriculture and allied activities. This is one of the key objectives of the watershed management. Utilizing the land and water resources according to their capabilities to support agriculture and allied activities, maintaining adequate vegetative cover on the soil for controlling soil erosion, mainly during rainy season. Friends, this is very, very important that we are able to check the land degradation, mainly soil erosion. As you know, if the land is barren during monsoon, Indian monsoon or torrential monsoon, heavy rainfall, and the top layer removed every year. And you will be surprised to know that 0.8 millimeter of the topsoil removed every year during the monsoon. This is a very, very severe ecological issue in India. Through the watershed management, maintaining the adequate vegetative cover on the soil for controlling soil erosion, mainly during monsoon seasons, we are able to check the soil erosion because of the vegetative cover. Conserving maximum possible rainwater through rainwater harvesting. By contour farming, by water harvesting structures and storing it in ponds for future use. Now, in the watershed management, the techniques have been developed. One technique is the traditional technique where there is a terrace farming. Through the terrace farming, we are able to check the soil erosion, also the direct loss of water, and preventing erosion in gullies and increasing groundwater recharge by putting a nala, bunds, and gully plugs at suitable intervals. In this technique, I'd like to share that those slopes which are very gentle, say 20 degree, 25 degree, 15 degree angle of the slope, these slopes are already under agriculture system where the terrace farming has been developed already. Those slopes which are little steep, which are more vulnerable to the soil erosion, loss of water. In this program, watershed management, there are different shape and sizes of the pits are developed. If slope is little gentle, the size of pits is larger, and if the slope is little steep, then the size of pits is smaller. These pits are developed from upper part of the watershed to the lower part of the watershed. In the rainwater during monsoon, these pits are filled up with the water, and first of all, it checks the sudden runoff of the water. So water first fill up in the pits, then drain out slowly. So arresting the water at source, that's very important. Arresting water at source, and those water which were draining out without use, rather having negative impact on the soil erosion. Now, these water are checked at source, and the water in the pits recharge the underground water. Friends, this way, there is a new hydrological cycle. Restoration of the hydrological cycle has become possible. And from the top of the watershed to the bottom of the watershed, water infiltrate, percolate with the seepage of water, and finally, in the bottom of the valley, all this water from the various slopes come in the common point, where a new spring, a new rivulet forms. This way, I mention Sri Sachidanand Bharati ji, how he had developed the God Ganga river through the pits, water pits, and different shape and different sizes provide the water which percolates over a kilometer, 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometer range of the watershed slope. That water keep on flowing throughout the year. Therefore, it gives origin of a perennial river, perennial stream. And through the water seepage, you get the perennial source of water. Also, when the slope which was a barren slope, which were outcrop, no any vegetation, no grass, no any kind of livelihood options on those slopes, the slopes were barren. And after a couple of years, we'll see that because of presence of water, subsurface water, the top layer affected by worms, and the barren rock gradually convert as a good quality of soil. So through this, there is a soil genesis. Soil genesis. We are generating the soil through the watershed management. And once the barren land become fertile soil, then farmer, local people used to plant different varieties of trees on the upper slope. Almost 60% of the slope of the watershed under afforestation. Friends, it is easy to say that who are going to have afforestation? The labor, and those labor which are uneducated, unskilled, and lower strata of the society, they get employment. So there is local employment generation for afforestation. This way, providing employment to the extreme rural poor. So it become easy to raise the level of the local poor by providing local employment. And through the construction of the pits, afforestation, planting, irrigating, caring, and after the couple of years, those plants when become a tree, undergrowth become grassland. So once the land which was barren, that land become pasture land. Land which was barren had become forest land. So there is availability of fodder, fuel, grazing land, and those people of the village society which are extremely poor, uneducated, landless, they get source of livelihood. This is one of the objective of the National Environment Planning of Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest Climate Change, that provide livelihood options to the extreme rural poor through the natural resources who are more dependent on the natural resources for their survival. Friends, this way we provide local employment, local livelihood options, and because watershed management includes entire community of the panchayat. The unit of the watershed is the panchayat level. So each and every section of the society of the panchayat are involved in watershed management. Therefore, the gap of the so-called upper caste and the lower caste has been removed. Indian society was highly divided as a basis of casteism. Therefore, Indian society was highly vulnerable through the stratification of the caste. There were economic stratification, there were social stratification. To remove this strata, the initiatives were taken from very early after the independence. And even watershed management has proved that to solve the problem of untouchability, where people come to the common place, where each and every caste, sub-caste people come together. They have developed their mutual understanding because common platform for the community participation. Landless people are employed in the afforestation. The people who are owner of the land, they engage in the farming. And those who are landless, they get employment through the agriculture, through the horticulture. So people coming to the common platform, common point. Therefore, there is de-stratification in the society. And friends, the society which is characterized without strata, de-stratification, one society, there is no discrimination, the society is developed, the society is good. That kind of society has social fencing and social well-being. If the society is divided into different strata, that society can never become a good society. That society will be always divided and fighting. To remove the strata, thanks to our Prime Minister, after the banning the notes of 1,000 and 500, so that economic strata, very rich black money people and very poor daily wages, today if you go to the society on the road, that everyone on the same queue. This is called de-stratification, where all the people, all the caste, all the religion, all the people come to the common point. This is done earlier through the watershed management. And friends, 1978, NAC, called National Commission on Agriculture, NCA, National Commission on Agriculture, has introduced the social forestry. Social forestry to provide the employment, economic prosperity to the farmers, and also to bring ecological restoration. Friends, social forestry was applied in the watershed management. Now, watershed management complementary to social forestry, and social forestry is complementary to watershed management. Through this, the watershed management and social forestry together become more effective step to restore the loss of ecology which were earlier due to the agricultural development, due to the green revolution, due to industrial revolution. And through the de-stratification of the society, where people had developed faith, feelings, emotions with their neighbor. Earlier, two neighbors, if feel suspicious against each other, they cannot develop mutual understanding. We need that I should believe on my neighbor should believe on me, so that I feel secure in my society. This concept is known as social fencing, where a people feel safe by the surrounding people. Social fencing, we need a strong social fencing in our society. Unfortunately, in the urban areas, particularly Delhi, where women do not feel safe in the night because of crime. But if you go to the developed country, where there is social fencing, people believe each other that my neighbor, my friend, people in the society, in the market, are there to help me, not to exploit me, not to harm me. This kind of feeling known as social fencing. Friends, through the watershed management, through the social forestry, people has come together, people has come to the common point. Therefore, more faith, beliefs have developed, and a society which was a stratified society, divided society, has become de-stratified, has become more belief and faith, mutual understanding. Therefore, more and more level of social fencing have been developed in the community. Along with the social fencing, social well-being through the watershed management possible when we have all the three pillars: economic well-being, social well-being, and the ecological well-being. Without economic, social, and ecological, if you remove any one of them, that well-being is not a well-being. For example, people in Delhi having highest per capita income in the country as compared to the other cities, other states. Economically, we have well-being, high per capita income, but there is no ecological well-being, there is no environmental well-being. There was so much pollution after Deepavali. It was a kind of mist haze throughout the day and night. Many people died because of the pollution. Children have lost their lungs. There is economic prosperity, but there is no environmental prosperity. This is not a social well-being. Social well-being will be possible only when all the three components are developed: economic well-being, social well-being, and ecological well-being. Therefore, we need the three, and we are able to achieve all the three through the watershed management. Watershed management, along with the social well-being, we found many people in the society, in the rural areas also, a big masses of the Swachh Bharat coming up. And thanks to the government, our Prime Minister, Finance Minister, where you find the new currency note, there is a logo of the Swachh Bharat. So the masses which were confined only the elite class. Now the mass is going to the downtrodden people at the grassroots level. So the kind of cleanliness coming in the rural level. This is a unique feature for ecological restoration. No environmental restoration possible without Swachh Bharat, without cleaning. We need that cleaning. Therefore, now coming the point that through the watershed management, coming to the social well-being. Now, economic development, while food security, while livelihood security, so many families which are dependent directly on the natural resources for their survival. And there were no natural resources for their survival earlier, but after the grazing land, after the forest land, there is lot of fodder and fuel for the present generation. Also, there are a number of allied employment activities. For example, those families which were landless, they had not the economic opportunity except hand to mouth for the survival only. There are thousands and thousands of successful stories in the entire country. Those poor families, after the development of the pasture land, forest land, they started rearing of goats because they found CPR, common property resources. Through the common property resources, those landless people, they got common land for grazing. Therefore, through the grazing, they started rearing the goats. So 10 goats of this year become 20 goats next year, 50 goats further next year. So finally, a family able to have 50 to 100 goats. And they are able to sell out 5 to 6 goats every month. Friends, 6 goats means almost 30,000 rupees per month. Through that pasture land, through that forest land, through that common property land, they are able to earn 30 to 40,000 rupees per month. With the help of government, they not only find their basic livelihood condition, also they become able to develop their economic prosperity through the watershed. Friends, therefore, the economic development, social development, ecological development. So through the economic well-being, through the social well-being, through the ecological well-being, so economic development through the ecological development, economic development through the social development. And there are so many stories in the rural areas where the families which were poor, after the grazing land, they are able to have a number of goats, earn money. They got opportunity in the panchayat election and they become head of the panchayat, Gram Pradhan. See, a lower caste people become Gram Pradhan, giving direction to all the sections of the society. This is social integration through the economic development. Social development, economic development through the ecological restoration. Friends, watershed management provide all the three pillars: ecological development, economic development, social development. These examples are very obvious throughout the country now, every village areas. Also, the basic fundamentals of the sustainable development, that watershed management not only provide the intra-generational equity, rather watershed management also provide intergenerational equity, including the intra-generational equity to the intergenerational equity. Both we are able to get through the watershed management. And the watershed management having certain principles which I'd like to share with you. The main principles of watershed management based on resource conservation, resource generation, and resource utilization. Friends, these three are the fundamentals of ecological restoration. We need not only to conserve. There is resource conservation, resource generation, and resource utilization. One side we are utilizing the resource, on the other side we are generating the resource. And keep in mind, remember Professor Zimmerman, that resources are not, resources become. So watershed management has developed a kind of resource where there is a resource conservation, resource generation, and resource utilization. Utilizing the land based on its capability and enhancing the capability of land, protecting top fertile soil, minimizing silting up of the tanks, reservoirs, and enhancing the carrying capacity of land, protecting vegetative cover throughout the year, in situ conservation of rainwater, which I mentioned you, arresting the water at the source, safe diversion of gullies and construction of check dams for increasing groundwater recharge, increasing cropping intensity through inter-sequence cropping. Watershed management provides upper part forest area, lower part having the food grains, further bottom areas have vegetables, horticulture. So agricultural development supporting economic development. Alternate land use systems for efficient use of marginal lands. So those marginal lands which were wasteland are being developed. Water harvesting for supplemental irrigation. Maximizing farm income through agricultural related activities such as dairy, poultry, sheep and goat farming. Improving infrastructural facilities for storage, transport and agricultural marketing. Improving socio-economic status of the farmers. Soil and master conservation measures like terracing, trenching, vegetative barriers, planting and sowing of multi-purpose trees, shrubs, grasses, land development, encouraging natural regeneration, promotion of agroforestry and horticulture, wood substitution and fuel use conservation measures, measures needed to disseminate technology, training and extension and creation of a greater degree of awareness among the participants, encouraging people's participation. And through this diagram you can find the community, population, the government watershed management. Friends, population dynamics with resource development like watershed, local livelihoods. There is a lot of policies, norms and laws for the watershed management, and it's having internal and external interests. So lot of potential for watershed development in the country. Through this potential, we are able to develop the food security, livelihood options at the local level. These photographs can give you the example of how we have enhanced the food security and enhancing the land, water, and livelihood conditions. In fact, everything is good, but having some initial limitations, and these limitations can be removed through the integration of ecology, economy, society, people, traditional knowledge, and scientific applications. Friends, with these words, I would like to thank you, and if you have any question related to watershed management, ecological restoration, social development, economic development, ecological development through watershed management, you are most welcome. Thank you very much.
And with this note, I would like to thank you, sir, for such enlightening lectures. And dear friends, I'm sure you would also you would have also liked this lectures. And if you have any questions and queries, please write us back on the email ID, which will be given just after this lectures. And for more interesting and enlightening lecture, please stay tuned and keep watching us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.